All right, we're back. We're live. Not a solo episode today. This is going to be a long one, all about the NBA playoffs, and we'll touch on college basketball at the end. Connor's back with us. Let's start off. I had to do the podcast solo last week, last second emergency podcast. We didn't get your take on it. Hornets fired James Borrego. Turns out it was Borrego.
Head. The article was spot on. Everybody can hate on me. A lot of my friends back Borrego, and they were like, "Oh, like this article is blah blah blah, whatever." If you read the article, it was pretty spot on what I said. And everybody's like, "Why did they fire him this soon? Like Michael Jordan has to have a plan." Borrego improved 10 wins one year and then 10 more wins this year to get 43. Let's put that in perspective, because I talked about this last time we talked about this topic. 23 wins to 33 wins. Both of those seasons were shortened. 65 games, 72 games. So the improvement is not as drastic as you may think. There's really been a steady decline since his first year there, and then a little bit of improvement this year. 43 wins, that's great. That's awesome. You don't get paid for winning regular season games. You get paid for winning in the playoffs, producing results. I'm not taking anything away from his development of young players, but it was the right decision. The fact of the matter is the Hornets were 2 or 3 years ahead of the rebuild schedule. Like, that's great, and he contributed to that. But the fact of the matter is that they were ahead of the schedule, so they need to win now. Maybe not win an NBA championship, obviously, but not get blown out 2 years in a row, fall to the 10 seed 2 years in a row, lose by 30 points each time in the playing game. You would think the second year they would at least know, since they've been there. It was time for him to go. James Borrego, last thing I'll say about this for now, Borrego was the guy for the Hornets rebuild. He developed the talent, did a great job of that, built the team, whatever it may be, had great relationships with the players apparently, but he wasn't that guy to take them to the next level, whether it be lack of experience, lack of whatever, like lack of rotational awareness, lack of defensive schemes, whatever it may be. He just wasn't that guy to take them to the next level. And he did have opportunities in win or go home games. I think if he wins one of those playing games and the Hornets get into the playoffs, he probably gets another year.
I think so too. I think another thing that's underrated in this is that I think his voice got stale.
What do you mean?
I think they just got tired of hearing the same message and not a different result.
And I was about to say, and it wasn't working. Exactly. Those defensive rotations that sometimes were maddening. And I'm not saying Kelly Oubre is a star defender or people like that, but some of the rotations, you just can't run against NBA caliber teams. Nobody else does it. And there's a reason nobody else does it.
Okay. What do you say about to the people who say, okay, he's never had a real center in his time in Charlotte?
That's fine and dandy. I agree with that. And that's one glaring issue that you can point to, is that the roster construction wasn't there. But then again, it never is. Like, a no NBA roster is really perfect. It's like, as a coach, you have to make do with what you can. I mean, Mason Plumlee is not horrible. He's not a starting caliber center, but there's enough other talent around them. I feel like they weren't the 10th best talented team in the East. I think they were higher than that.
And then what do you say to people that say, okay, well, Gordon Hayward, he doesn't have his full team because Gordon Hayward's always out?
That's also fair. That's a fair point. But then again, if you're the Hornets, then whatever it just is not working. I feel like Hayward has to be gone also. At least, like, what do you think? Like, I feel like
you have to figure out something. I mentioned this when I did the podcast on Friday. It sounds crazy because I hate Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert fits in Charlotte better than any other team in the NBA right now.
That lob threat for LaMelo, the defensive presence is on the block, obviously gets exposed in the playoffs. At least he would get us there, you know?
Exactly.
As that may be. And just the whole Borrego thing, it's like, if he comes back for another year, like if they gave him one more year and the same thing happened again, then you're really risking like the players like getting used to that losing mentality, that losing culture, same thing over and over again. Maybe somebody leaving, you know, like it's just so risky. I feel like it was the right time for a change. I really do. I thought they would give him at least maybe like half of next year to see what happened, but I don't hate this move at all. I called for it in the article. I think it is time to move on.
That's another thing too, is who do we hire now? Who do the Hornets hire now? There's a Mark Jackson rumors, Mike D'Antoni. You've seen a zillion names. Quinn Snyder, if the Jazz get knocked out early, even though if I'm Utah, Utah is kind of in the same situation, even though they've been way better than the Hornets have in the previous years. They're in a situation where they may have to fire Quinn Snyder because his voice is getting old, and they got to keep Donovan Mitchell happy.
That, and they've had just like the Hornets, obviously the Jazz's ceiling is higher. They've had the same ceiling for the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So that's the thing. Like, they're consistently making the playoffs, but the whole goal is to win a championship. And so if you're not getting there and it's clearly not working, you do have to change something up. Even if you're like a top 5-6 team in the West still. And I wouldn't be mad at Quinn Snyder, or I would be mad at Mark Jackson. D'Antoni, I think, would be fine.
Mark Jackson would be horrendous. Mark Jackson would be an all-time blunder. What about Coach K? What about Coach K?
What about it? I don't. Oh God, that would be rough for me. I would have to. I mean, I'm a diehard Hornets fan. I would have to just roll with it. It's the same thing as like, golly, I don't know, like the Hornets draft Mark Williams or something like, or Jeremy Sochan. Like, as a Carolina fan, that's tough, but I would roll with it. Coach K is like a new level. Like, if that somehow happened, I don't know I don't know how I'd react.
Yeah, and the last thing we'll talk about with Borrego is people say like the whole center situation, Gordon Hayward, all that. This Hornets team is way too talented not to be playing in the playoffs. The matter of the fact that the Raptors are in the playoffs right now, the Cavs were a 7 seed. They easily could have made the playoffs if they would just like, if they were decent, if Jared Allen was healthy, they were making the playoffs. Yeah. Like those teams were making the playoffs, and I don't believe they're more talented than the Hornets.
And here's the thing. I know the Pelicans are making a lot of noise right now because Booker's out and everything. I think the Hornets have a better roster than them without Zion, at least, because they haven't had Zion the whole year. And they've won 2 games in the playoffs against the number 1 seed. You're telling me the Hornets aren't better than the Pelicans, don't have a better roster? At least pretty close to the same.
Willie Green, a home run higher for the Pelicans.
Yeah, that was money. Like, if the Hornets could find somebody like that, like, I don't know. Like, do you think the Hornets need like an established head coach that's been in the playoffs before, that's maybe been out of the league for a couple of years, or another assistant
that
getting their first crack?
I think it's got to be a veteran, right? It's got to be a D'Antoni. It's got to be a Quinn Snyder. Maybe not someone that's won a championship, but someone who's been to the playoffs and does that kind of thing and has worked with superstars.
Frank Vogel?
Another thing. Borrego's working with LaMelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Frank Vogel would be a fine hire. I genuinely think he might be the next Charlotte head coach. He seems like he would be it.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. And that's the thing. You hit the nail on the head. If they go with another assistant coach or something like that, that's more of the same. Then I don't understand why they fired James Borrego if they follow that path again. I completely disagree with that. So it has to be somebody established that's had head coaching experience and hopefully playoff experience.
Yeah, and a lot of people are mentioning the assistant on the Milwaukee Bucks and stuff like that.
Oh, Darvin Ham?
Yeah.
I feel like he'll be a great head coach, but that's not what the Hornets need in particular.
No.
Not with the roster.
That's someone like the Pistons or the Magic need.
Exactly.
Get those teams off the ground, or like when the Wizards finally go through their complete teardown when Bradley Beal leaves in a few years.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's just not what the Hornets need with their current roster construction. Now, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, then sure. But they did that with Borrego, took that path, worked out fairly well, but it is time to move on and hopefully get somebody that's established in the league.
Last thing on the Hornets, we'll do 2 more things on the Hornets. First off, we talked about it a little bit. What do we do with Hayward and how do we fix this roster going forward? Do we pay Miles Bridges, that whole thing?
I think number one, it's like the whole thing about making the 10 seed and then getting blown out twice in a row. Hayward once again went out in late February, I think it was, missed the last month and a half, 2 months of the year, questionably came back for 15 minutes in the Philly game and then missed the rest of the year again, just like last year. I feel like something has to be done about it. Like, I don't know like what the best move is with that. Like, I know it's a huge salary. People have said Russell Westbrook. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if another team would have to match that salary. But the Hornets do have to figure something out with him because it can't be the same thing over and over again. Your highest paid player can't miss the last 3 months of the year, the most crucial stretch.
Yep, exactly.
All right. I think something has to be done.
The absolute last thing on the Hornets, just real quick, who do you think they draft going in? If they don't trade for a center, I'll go first. I think Mark Williams to the Hornets is almost a lock.
See, I think Mark Williams is ahead of Kai Jones when he came out of college. But I feel like that's more of the same. I feel like they would treat him the same they've treated Kai Jones.
Maybe not with a new coach, though.
Maybe
I think
not,
that's just Borrego's way.
I guess so, but we've had Vernon Carey, Nick Richards, Kai Jones, and now like Mark Williams. Like, I feel like that's more of the same. But drafting a center for us hasn't worked.
I just think that's Borrego's regime because LaMelo was on the bench most of his rookie year.
That is a fair point. That's a fair point. But
James Bouknight was getting blackmailed, it seemed like, this year.
I feel like Bouknight would have been gone if Borrego stayed. Call me crazy.
The lowest player in the league to request a trade to do a storm out in the offseason.
That would be crazy. But I just feel like the Hornets have not had success drafting centers.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't, but we don't know because Borrego doesn't even try it. Nick Richards was never going to work. I mean,
no, that was a reach. And Vernon Carey, we thought had potential ACC Player of the Year. Not really
even
built
that, just defensively, he's just not there. Kai Jones is a little raw, but I think he's there. Like if you watch the Greensboro Swarm games, he is dominant. Let's talk about this now. The Nets are the first team in the NBA playoffs to get swept, the only team to get swept, and the first team to be eliminated in the NBA playoffs. If that was on Vegas books for the first team to be eliminated for the Brooklyn Nets, that would have been at least plus 5,000.
It's shocking to me because that was my pick. Not to win it all, but my pick to go to the finals to make it out of the East. I really thought in the playoffs, talent really matters. And you can argue that, you know, obviously the whole Ben Simmons saga, which we'll get into, but like they were missing Joe Harris. Like they only played a few games together at the end of the year. Kyrie was out 3/4 of the year. Still, even against the Celtics, who's the 2 seed, I thought they were frauds.
Yeah, I mean, when the Celtics went up 2-0, I was like, oh, don't be worried. So Nets are going to play fine at home. Boston's not going to get away with this kind of defense in Brooklyn. They did. I mean, everything was the same. Every single game was the exact same story.
Without Robert Williams, really, for the most part. I mean, he played a few minutes in the last couple of games, but really without Robert Williams.
Yeah. I mean,
you can really – sorry, go ahead.
Let's give credit to the Celtics first. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Al Horford's been phenomenal. And the matter of the fact is, the Celtics, like, I don't know if their offense is that much different. It just seems like they're just making shots and they're confident. It's a lot like Carolina this year. Like, I don't think Carolina's offense changed at the end of the year into the NCAA tournament. I just think they got confident and just made those shots.
People like Marcus Smart are just nailing.
Marcus Smart hits every big shot. He made that left-handed floater.
And they make the right play like that. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, the whole tide shifted. I know you can say it's early. The series might have been over in game one because the Nets had a lead, blew it at the end, and that last-second Tatum layup, that might have been the series.
That's true. But also, shout out to Jason Tatum because every single year with Jason Tatum, he is, for the last hour, I can't remember how long he's been in the league, 4 or 5 years, he is the most frustrating player to watch at the end of games. Him and Marcus Smart, which doesn't make for a great team. They are the most frustrating guys to watch at the end of games because it's all ISO ball and they take the absolute worst shot possible. These dudes, when Marcus Smart passed that ball at the end of the game in game one, I like him not taking that shot. I was like, my jaw dropped. I was like, he didn't take that.
Well, isn't Jason Tatum a rookie? I thought he was like 20. Still,
he's like 19. I think.
No, I understand what you're saying. And that is true because last year, or even early in this year, Marcus Smart would have shot that floater. Not even 100%. Not even thought twice about it.
But now let's talk about the Nets because this is the real story. Like, Celtics are good. They're probably the second or first favorite to probably win the title. Easily the favorite to come out of the East, I think. I think it's them and probably the Bucks if Middleton comes back healthy.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. But
yeah, exactly.
The Nets,
or
if
Grayson Allen keeps playing like a god.
Yeah. Dude, the Nets collapse. I don't get it. The whole Ben Simmons thing, it just blows my mind.
I think the Nets are the mentally weakest team in NBA history.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say.
Like, for a superstar caliber team, they are mentally, these guys are so fragile, it seems like.
I will say this, though, in a little bit of defense of Ben Simmons, to not play any of the 82 games, to not play the first 3 playoff games, and then to attempt to make that comeback after not having played in over a year, and your first game is you're down 0-3 in an elimination game, I think that's a little crazy. Now, if he had played most of the regular season and then been out for a while and then wanted to come back, I would have been like, okay, that's a little more reasonable. I understand why he didn't. Like, I know, like, competitive fire and everything. He hasn't played a minute with that team. Like, that would leave a huge bad impression. The whole offseason, everybody be talking about if he had, like, a bad game. Because, like, what are the chances he had a great game if he actually came back and played tonight? Probably not high. Probably would have had a low-caliber game. They probably would have still lost. And then the whole offseason, they're like, oh, Ben Simmons this, like, bust. Talking about him being mentally weak, that would have ended his career. So I understand that. I do understand that. But also, I think he could have come back sooner, even in the regular season. I don't know what's going on, but
the biggest thing too is some people say, oh, people are trashing on Ben Simmons too much or blah, 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 blah. The thing is, he's putting it on himself quite a bit with the stuff he's saying. And when you're in practice and you're like, you point to a local beat reporter like, hey man, get this. And he does like the weakest 2-handed dunk for a 6'10" guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, I'm that guy.
The thing is, people are treating him on Twitter and stuff, and like everybody's reporting on him, especially Woj, like he's LeBron or something. He's not a top 40 player.
Right now, no, just because offensively, like,
yeah,
you can literally just sit at the basket.
Yeah, exactly. He was, but like nobody knows right now. Like if he came back, that doesn't mean the Nets were gonna like automatically cakewalk to the title.
No, and what this means for the Nets is they have to stop the load managing. To the extent they have been doing. Like, obviously this year was weird with the whole Kyrie vaccine thing and KD getting hurt. I understand that, but there's still like, oh, he's going to randomly sit out. Oh, Kyrie's only playing once every other week type deal. I feel like that's always going to be a thing with Kyrie Irving, whether it's a vaccine mandate or not. But next year proves that these guys have to play a minimum 60 games together.
I completely agree with that. And the whole Nets roster construction, I don't understand LaMarcus Aldridge not getting any run. Like I think he was hurt a little bit at the end of the year. I feel like he maybe could have made a little difference. The one I really don't get is, did Blake Griffin have that big of a decline from last year? Because he played 25 minutes a game in that Milwaukee series last year when they lost in Game 7. He guarded Giannis every time he was in the game.
His conditioning was horrible right now.
Is that what it is? I can't fathom that he had that much of a decline.
Because you'll hear it on every broadcast if you have the sound on. They're always, every single broadcast, they're like, Blake Griffin is now wheezing through this game right now. He is huffing and puffing.
Well, I understand that now because he barely played this year.
Yeah, I think his conditioning and injuries and he's like one of those guys that you always talk about, like the Derrick Roses, Russell Westbrook, eventually Zion, unfortunately. These guys that go so hard on their bodies. DeAndre Jordan, a great example too. And it just breaks down fast.
It's really like, obviously, LeBron, KD, like getting older, Curry getting older, but it's guys like Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan that can't even contribute on a team anymore. And you're like, dang, like,
yeah,
time is really flown by. Like, it feels like Lob City was yesterday. Like, it's crazy to even think about. Even Andre Drummond to a certain extent, he led the league in rebounds on the Pistons like 3 years in a row, and now he can barely play 15 minutes. I thought he was a great center. And then he signed with the Lakers last year, and then this year he's been mediocre at best.
Has Patty Mills missed a 3 ever?
Yes. Yeah, he went on a cold stretch this year. To start the year, though, I thought he was most improved player easily.
Most improved got robbed.
Six man. Oh, yeah. Miles Bridges came in 7th in voting.
Did you see that shit? Oh, yeah, I did see that. But last thing on the Nets, I mean, unbelievable by the Celtics, but last thing is Steve Nash. I think a lot of people just expected him to just quit, resign, step down, go do his soccer thing. He owns a team in Spain. He owns the Vancouver Whitecaps. Just do his thing that he was doing before. He already said he's coming back. He said this would have been totally different with Ben Simmons and Joe Harris coming back. I actually very much agree with that.
I do too.
But the thing is, the way the Nets, like, if they just came back like right for the playoffs and they were playing, it does not matter. They have to play games together. We are seeing this year after year. These guys cannot continue this load managing bull crap.
They followed a little bit too much of like the LeBron Lakers model, like Aldridge, Blake Griffin, like these veterans that like Paul Millsap before they traded him to Philly.
Because if it doesn't work, if it doesn't work, it comes back to bite you 10 times harder.
Exactly. And when these guys that you're signing, they're supposed to be like 25, 30-minute a game guys, starters, 6-man, and they can't even play a playoff, like a meaningful minute in the playoffs. That's horrible. Like, I feel like they have to look at their depth a little differently because Bruce Brown cannot be your go-to scorer. And that's Game 3. He was the go-to scorer. Bruce Brown. Like that.
He was playing on the Long Island Nets 2 months ago against the Greensboro Swarm.
I just don't understand that. Like, that can't happen. And they're getting guys like Kessler Edwards, like David Duke got some minutes in the regular season that were like very meaningful. That can't happen on a championship level team. It just can't.
All right, enough on the Nets Celtics. Let's move on to a series that we don't really have to talk about. Heat up 3-1 on the Hawks. They should close out the series in 5. I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen.
We did, and Trae Young is just getting boxed up. Like, the Heat defense is for real. And the thing is, when you have Kevin Knox coming in the last 3-4 minutes of garbage time and outscoring Trae Young in 38 minutes, something's wrong.
Yeah, the Hawks are in a weird spot right now because, I mean, they're almost, this is how I always make these stupid analogies with sports, but this Hawks team is literally like point for point, like that Jason Tatum Celtics team that made it to that miraculous run to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's the same thing because they come into the regular season the following year like, oh, bro, we've been there. We won that. And like regular season games don't mean anything. Like we playoff bound, bro. And like, they talk so much and haven't done actually anything.
And Trae Young just jacks 35 footers like he's Curry. I don't get it sometimes. He doesn't consistently hit them.
No, the Hawks are in a weird spot where they have to make some like weird moves.
Like Gallinari getting older, probably overpaid. Bogdanovich a little overpaid, I would argue. They have too many rotational guys that are decent and not like that go-to second guy. Mm-hmm. Like John Collins can't be the second guy on a team.
And those are classic Hornets signings, like signing a guys like Nick Batum,
Jeremy Lamb.
Yep.
Yeah, like Marvin Williams. Like they're all classics. And the thing is, the Hawks, like, they have a lot of talent and depth, but they don't have enough power at the top. Like Trae Young, and then who else? They have to have a second guy. And John Collins could be like a third guy on a team, maybe. He can't be that second guy, especially
exactly.
Not hurt like
and
this.
Utah, and like I keep going back to Utah, but Utah's a lot like that too, where they get these guys like Bogdanovich, like Mike Conley, like even Joe Ingles. Like they're good, they're talented guys. They're not guys that will take you to that next level. They'll take you to the first, max second round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean the Hawks obviously had that miraculous run last year, but you're telling me this Hawks team is going in next year, going past the second round?
No.
Even making it to the second round?
No, I don't think so at all. And the thing about that is like the whole Bogdanovich and all that comparison, spot on. They'll give you 18 a game during the regular season. I think John Collins averaged like 17. But in the playoffs, it's just, it's different. It's literally different.
Yep. Their defense is unbelievable. I still don't believe in the Heat, though, because I don't think they have enough offensive firepower to get past a team like Boston or Milwaukee, who can defend just as well as the Heat can, but have more offensive firepower.
I'll tell you what a big X factor is. It's like the Heat have been playing these guys like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, who have been going off.
Max Strus has been unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And the thing is, Duncan Robinson's fallen off. But also, I just want to say, I think an X factor for them, got some rotational minutes last game. Victor Oladipo, he's an all-star, 3 years ago? He was an all-star?
Yeah.
If they can somehow like work him back into the rotation, like game shape, and he can contribute, because like Lowry's out right now. Lowry might be out for a couple games. If Oladipo can like get some form of rhythm, like that'll be huge for them, I feel like. Because Duncan Robinson's falling out of the rotation. Dwayne Dedmon shouldn't be getting too many minutes. I know he's like their backup big, but still, there's minutes for Oladipo to take, I feel like.
I think so too. It'll be interesting because they're going up against who are they going up against? It's Sixers Raptors, right?
The 4-5, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd be going up against which we can lead into that if you want to.
Yeah, let's go into that. Sixers were went up 3-0.
Yep.
After tonight, 3-2. Toronto came back, still 2 with Van Fleet out.
I was gonna say without Van Fleet.
And now the Embiid injury came out after game 3 that he had the torn thumb or whatever.
It's always something with him. I hate to say it, it's always something. And it sucks.
I mean, we talked about that in the preview too. Is like, can you trust guys like Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid to stay healthy throughout the entire playoffs?
And it's just crazy because the Sixers scored 88 points tonight. Like I'm looking at this right now. God, the bench is just abysmal for the Sixers. It's just horrible.
Well, and Harden is always bad in the playoffs.
He is. He's 4 for 11 tonight.
He's on the decline. Like it's official now. Like there's definitely going to be a point next season where Harden has this weird renaissance where like Harden is so back, and you see all these Bleacher Report highlights talking about he had 34, 15, and 9 tonight. Harden back in his bag tonight, the beard. But then in reality, come playoff time, he has 14 points, 7 turnovers, and shoots 21% from the field.
He's had a huge fall off. I don't get it, dude. Like,
that's another guy. Like, it just happened.
It seems like yesterday he was putting up 40 a game in Houston and almost beating the Warriors.
Even like the Nets games last year, he was still putting up numbers.
Yeah, until he got hurt, he was putting up huge numbers. Oh my gosh, God, that just sucks. The injuries suck. I will say this: if there is a coach and a team to blow a 3-0 lead for the first time ever in history, it'll be Doc Rivers.
Yep, the biggest collapse of a head coach of all time. Okay, what would be worse though? This 3-0 collapse with Embiid with a torn finger. Like that is not a small thing because I think if he is healthy, there's no way the Raptors come back in this one. No way, even for how bad Doc Rivers is. With them losing up 3-0 be worse than that collapse, the Josh Smith game? Which is worse?
The Josh Smith game. Oh.
I think the Josh Smith game is still worse.
Why?
I mean, do you remember like watching that? How much better the Clippers were?
The thing is, if you look at
that was their chance. That was their year.
If you look at those Clippers teams and the talent they had, like I feel like they had depth like that.
Those dudes were in their prime too.
Jamal Crawford. Yeah. Oh yeah. They were all in their prime. Redick was a monster.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think this would be a bigger collapse, even with Embiid with a torn finger. 3-0. Never been done before. I think that's a bigger collapse. To lose 4 straight to the same team you just beat 3 times in a row would be unbelievable.
Facebook, NFL, NBA fans tweeting out that Doc Rivers is going to be the next Atlanta Falcons head coach.
If they somehow lose this series, that would be shocking. Would they? And the thing with the Sixers is
right now, if you're looking at it right now, say Van Fleet comes back for Game 6, they got to go back to Toronto. Embiid's still hurt.
Tybal's not playing in Toronto.
3-2. Who's winning this series? I would say it's probably Sixers minus 125 right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say about even odds.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But the thing is, if you look at the Sixers roster, their starting 5 is pretty good. Their bench is horrible.
Their bench is terrible.
Their best guy off the bench right now is Georges Niang.
What's crazy too is Brett Brown was the worst coach I've ever seen coach a legit good team in NBA basketball. It's no different with Doc Rivers. It's the exact same thing. And the Sixers, arguably Doc Rivers has more talent than Brett Brown did.
I don't know. The Sixers' best run was that Jimmy Butler year.
That's true.
That was their best chance. That was their year.
But even then, they're that one Kawhi shot away
from the finals.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think they might would have won.
Yeah, with if all the Warriors players get hurt, then probably.
If it's the same scenario with the Warriors guys getting hurt, I think the Sixers win.
Yeah, but I mean that's just insane. The Sixers were up 3-0. Every Sixers fan's talking trash. Oh, how was Embiid not the MVP? Oh, Jokic is trash. Jokic is about to get swept. I mean, I think either way, the MVP one is not a debate. If you saw these games, you watch the games. If you watch Jokic play, he doesn't get double teamed. That's how good he is, because you can't help onto him because he'll find the guy for an easy bucket, even though he's playing with all G League players. I mean,
and he plays 40 minutes a game.
Austin Rivers, Aaron Gordon, Campazzo. Campazzo's probably the most frustrating guy that gets NBA minutes.
His starting 3 or 4 wing guy, whatever, Jeff Green.
Yeah.
Jeff Green plays 30 minutes a game for that team. I was backing Embiid for MVP. But the thing is, I watched a lot of the season this year. Jokic is out there giving 40 minutes a game and carrying the Nuggets to a top 5 seed or top 6 seed, whatever.
They are in the legit playoffs. They should be, even with Jokic, they should be a 9-10 seed, barely making it to the play-in. And they are a top 6 team, only 3 games out from the Bucks and the Sixers, who are in arguably an easier conference.
Second and third best players, Porter and Jamal Murray, didn't touch the floor. And
arguably an easier division to play against as well.
I agree completely. What he's doing, Jokic just makes the guys around him so much better. And if you look at the most valuable player, the definition, most valuable player to your team, it's Jokic. And B puts up the individual numbers, dominates. That's even fine. Jokic is more valuable to his team.
And his individual numbers, I think, are equally as impressive with the assists.
I just think
and also, if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are playing, I think Jokic's stats are even better. I think
he might average a triple-double.
I think it would be a triple-double. That's what I was going to say.
100%. Because Jamal Murray's knocking down all those shots. Michael Porter just got paid the max. Would probably be a 20-point-a-game scorer. I think Jokic's points will go down a little bit, but he might average a triple-double.
Yeah, I think he'd be 20, 11, and 10.
Yeah, which I don't know. It's just unbelievable. And, I've harped on this before with all the LeBron stuff. I feel like LeBron should have won a few more MVPs because he was the most valuable player to his team.
Yes,
but was a thing.
There was a weird stretch with those awards when Westbrook and Harden won them, where
you just couldn't give it to somebody else.
Even though I think the Westbrook triple double MVP season was a joke. I'll always be on record for that.
To be the first player to do that is pretty insane. Even like you can say stat padding, whatever.
Yeah, I get that. That's a tough one. That's a summer podcast. We'll talk about that one later.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it about the Eastern Conference stuff. I mean, at this rate, you have to say Boston or Milwaukee's coming out, right?
Oh, Milwaukee and Chicago series. That was never a series, really.
Yeah.
Bulls are frauds. I thought they were kind of the real deal to start the year. They just fell apart. I know Levine's playing hurt, but like
Lonzo's out.
Lonzo's out, which sucks. They have no other options. All they have to do is clog the lane when DeRozan and Levine drive, and that's it. That is it.
DeRozan's a classic. Great regular season. Once it hits playoffs, it's a whole different ballgame.
I feel bad because he's had a few good games, but like you can't do anything. Patrick Williams can't make a shot.
No,
Vucevic is very inconsistent.
And then when you're going against arguably, maybe not even arguably, probably the greatest player to ever play basketball, Grayson Allen on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh yeah, Grayson, Michael Jordan Allen.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind, and you can't deny it. 49 points,
he has
49 points in his last 2 games. He's replacing all of Middleton's points like it's nothing.
Are they better without him? Because I feel like Jrue Holiday is a perfect second option.
If Grayson Allen can hit threes like this, then yes.
Chris Middleton just sucks the life out of the possession sometimes. Those post-ups at the elbow, like, ugh.
It's so funny because, like, Chris Middleton is what DeMar DeRozan just, like, wishes he could be.
Like, he's DeMar DeRozan with a 3-point shot.
Yeah, and, like, just, like, not an insane one, but, like, just a good 3-point shot.
Serviceable, where he's hit some big shots from there, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just gross. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
just boring.
Because, like, I've watched about almost every game in every series except for the Bucks Bulls ones. They're just impossible to watch. And then the one NBA TV one where it's blacked out in Utah, blacked out here, so I couldn't watch the game unless you have freaking K-Jazz, AT&T, whatever it's called, stupid streaming services, all that crap. But the Bulls-Bucks games are just blech.
And the thing is, I think 2 of the games so far have been that middle game on a weeknight where it's on NBA TV.
Those are so tough.
And guess what I'm not doing? I'm not flipping off the early game or not watching the start of the late game to watch the Bulls-Bucks. Like, sorry.
Exactly. And tonight the Sixers Raptors fell victim to that.
Yeah,
for sure. I was at the Mavs Jazz one, so that one I was at the NBA TV game. I missed the freaking collapse, and I missed the Nuggets Warriors game, which was a close one. I had to watch the highlights after.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Man, it's going to be so depressing once the second round hits and you're like, oh, we only get 2 games tonight? Because it's kind of nice having 3.
It is nice. I love the playoffs, especially the first round.
Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll be right. We'll be right back. All right, Suns Pelicans. Probably the weirdest series of the playoffs, in my opinion, with the injuries, what's going on with the whole Zion story, Jose Alvarado, who every team in the ACC wanted to punch him in the face all year long when they played against him. And now, like, I kind of like him now on the Pelicans, which is weird. But Suns Pelicans 2-2, and the game's at Smoothie King, a.k.a. the Blender, the best stadium name in sports probably right now.
Okay.
I mean, what is happening? Like, Brandon Ingram's playing better. I think, like, Brandon Ingram just took Kevin Durant's secret juice.
It's hard not to root for the underdog in the situation.
You have to root for the Pelicans. Like, it's awesome.
The way they play.
Also, I just don't like Phoenix. They rub me the wrong way.
I agree. The way they play is like, I don't know. Like, when I watch it, I'm just like, I want them to score. I want them to get stops. Herb Jones is electric.
Yeah, he's like this year's Lou Dort.
It's so cool. I don't know. Just to think the Pelicans started, and the broadcast has gone over this a million times. I'll just say it one more time. To start 1-12, and everybody has them as like maybe getting their 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah,
through the first 20 games to winning 2 playoff games and making it a series against the number 1 seed, even without Devin Booker. That's crazy. And here's a huge tweet that I saw. It's like, Devin Booker should not be the reason that the Phoenix Suns either win a championship and then when he goes out, might lose to like a 36-46 team or whatever it was.
And that's what I was going to touch on, is that tweet exactly hits it on the nail, because this is a critical moment for Chris Paul's legacy. Absolutely critical, because I mean, realistically, if they win this series and Devin Booker comes back, they have a legit shot to make it to the finals and win the finals. Chris Paul's legacy is cemented forever, and everybody's mindset changes about Chris Paul if he can win a finals. Everybody's. If he loses in the first round, it gets really scary.
They should not have a problem beating the Pelicans, even
not
if Devin Booker's
all.
not there. If they're a real championship team, you see, obviously the Bulls. I feel like the Bulls and Pelicans are like not that far off. The Bucks have no problem without Chris Middleton. Yeah, he's not their best player. Like that, you know, if Giannis went out, it'd be a different story. But the Suns should not have a problem beating the Pelicans.
Let's compare it to the Mavericks. The Mavericks lost Luka Doncic, and they were tied. They were up 2-1 against the Utah Jazz. They won a game in Utah.
And let's just say this: Chris Paul got absolutely outplayed last night.
He did. He flat out did.
Not by somebody in particular, just by the whole team.
Yeah. And Jose Alvarado got him on the behind the back steal.
That was hilarious.
He actually got him. Like, I hated Jose Alvarado.
Oh my God.
At Georgia Tech. Like, one of my least favorite players to go against in college.
So annoying.
But man, I like it now.
It's just, if you would have told me 2 or 3 years ago, whenever I was hating him in the ACC, hey man, Jose Alvarado is going to go undrafted, I'd be like, yeah, I know. And then you would have said, well, actually, he's going to help the Pelicans win 2 playoff games against the overall #1 seed in the West. In his rookie year, I'd be like, okay, like whatever you're on, like give me some. Because that's just unfathomable.
Because what I would have thought with Jose Alvarado, he looks like the most typical like guy on like the second week of summer league. Because usually all the top picks are they're like, all right, you're done, like go home.
Yeah.
And then they have the guys like. You see, Jose Alvarado's playing. It's like July 10th.
I remember him.
Yeah. He's dope. Oh, he's got 18 right now. He's playing in the Summer League semifinal game. Nice.
Yeah. He'll probably be in Lithuania next year.
Yeah. No, great for him, though. Shout out him. Shout out Georgia Tech. Shout out Josh Pastner. The weird thing right now, but like all of it's still being overshadowed by every single game. We get a highlight of Zion doing some insane dunk. And then the story, everyone's like, oh, Zion, he's trying to get out of New Orleans. But it turns out the Pelicans are holding him.
And that's one of two things. Either they're looking to trade him, don't want him to get hurt, or they're about to sign him to a huge extension. And you can't sign somebody who's, God forbid, like if he comes back and gets hurt, you can't sign somebody like that's hurt to a huge extension.
And I don't think he agrees to the huge extension is my thing. I lean a lot more 70-30 that he will get traded than he signs the extension. It is very weird because if he comes back and he's like in that rotation and playing well, even if he's 15 to 20 minutes a game and Devin Booker's out, tell me that they are not winning this series.
They might even win it anyways. I think it'll go 7 and the Suns will pull it out. But
yeah, especially in Phoenix. But then the next series, if it's either especially Utah, maybe even the Mavs, who aren't that great defensively,
both those teams are beatable.
Both the teams are very beatable. Once you get the Warriors, or even the Grizzlies, I think the Grizzlies, they're just maybe even the Timberwolves, because Timberwolves are just frisky like that.
Yeah, I don't think the Pelicans beat any of those teams. They would have a chance in the second round, though.
Just think, we could have a Pelicans Timberwolves conference finals.
Ain't no way. The thing is, I don't agree with Reggie Miller.
Nobody would ever told you that the Nets were getting swept.
That's true. This is a weird playoffs. Like that would be very on brand for this year. But what I was going to say is I don't agree with Reggie Miller on much. I do agree with like if Zion's doing between the legs 360s off vert, he can play 20 minutes a game.
He had that ridiculous one. Was it Sunday night?
Yeah, he can play 20 minutes a game. I really think he's in game shape. Like he's been doing 5-on-5s for a while now. I feel like.
Yeah, it's been over a month.
I feel like he's in better shape to play than Ben Simmons even.
Ben Simmons. We basically touched on everything in that one. I think both of us do think it goes Phoenix in 7.
Yeah, I think Phoenix will pull it out. I really do.
Which is an indictment on Phoenix anyways, but
I think New Orleans might win the next game and then Phoenix just wins the last 2. I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be a weird one in Phoenix.
I agree.
All right, Mavs Jazz. Right now the Mavs are spanking the Jazz. They're up 25 right now.
I think it was like 20 something last time I looked. So if this holds, it's third quarter.
They're in the third quarter up 22. Jazz aren't coming back. Their defense is not good enough.
So the Mavs will be up 3-2?
Mavs up 3-2 going into Utah for game 6. I still think it probably goes to 7. I think Utah snags game 6.
I agree, but I think the Mavs win Game 7, and that's the last time we see the Jazz team together.
It has to get blown up.
If they don't, then it's just going to be like
even if they somehow pulled off a miraculous way to win this first round series, it has to be blown up because the second round is the absolute peak this Jazz team will ever get to.
I think I said this in the previous episode we did, like whenever that was. If the Jazz don't win a couple games in the Western Conference Finals, not second round, Western Conference Finals, I think they have to blow it up no matter what. Even if they get there, I still, I don't know. It's just something's not working.
But the Jazz are in that weird spot where like they aren't a free agent destination. They're probably the least attractive free agent destination in maybe sports.
Yeah. And everybody's clamoring for Donovan Mitchell to leave for New York or somewhere like that.
Because like realistically, like what would it take to get Rudy Gobert? Because I don't think a team would give up that much. But if you're the Jazz, you're like, I'd rather just keep Rudy Gobert than take a 13th and 15th pick in the draft.
No way they take Hayward back, right?
Yeah, I know. I was about to write an article this week just like, all right, the 15th pick, Hayward and Nick Richards for Rudy Gobert. Who says no?
I don't know if the Jazz will take Hayward back. No,
Hayward's never going back to Utah, but Hayward's got to be gone anyways. But we already touched on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. God.
And they're the worst defensive team in the playoffs right now. It's not even close.
Attack Donovan Mitchell. Gobert gets put on a switch. It's barbecue chicken. If Luka or Brunson gets Gobert on a switch, they might as well just get back on defense.
And that's what I mentioned when I was doing the podcast last week. Is that everyone's like, oh, Rudy Gobert's best defensive player in the league. He's the best. He's defensive player of the year. Look at the defensive metrics, blah, 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 blah. Absolutely not. When in playoffs, the guy is getting, I know it's regular season award. You can keep saying that.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, when guys seek him out and then attack him and absolutely cook him, he's not the best defensive player in the league. Draymond Green's way better than Rudy Gobert is.
100%.
Mikal Bridges is better. And Marcus Smart is obviously better. If you've watched these playoffs, he's been playing out of his mind.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And no defensive player of the year should be getting seeked out on defense for switches and then getting cooked every time. Like, it's just not – even if you're a big, you have to be able to – if you're the defensive player of the year, you can't get played off the court in the most crucial time of the year.
And then when I was at game 3, they're down 17 in the third quarter. They make their run to come back and bring it within 1 without Rudy Gobert on the floor.
It's that small ball lineup.
They had Eric Pascal, who actually played – and the other thing with the Jazz, too, is they play with no effort, like we saw with Charlotte in the play-in game. The Jazz play with no effort, and that comes down on a few things. One, chemistry. Chemistry is clearly a problem in Utah. Rudy and Donovan clearly have a weird thing with each other. Like I was texting you before, that we're going to see so many offseason. The second this season ends, we're going to get a week later, some beat reporter from The Athletic for the Jazz is going to put out some huge long article like Rudy Gobert had this in Donovan
rift in the locker room.
Rudy kept stealing Donovan Mitchell's ice cream sandwiches out of the freezer, and it was game on from there. It's going to be some stupid story like that that we're all going to see. Someone's going to get traded. Donovan Mitchell's probably going to put in a trade request behind the scenes, hopefully, if you're Utah. Hopefully makes it. He does not make it public.
Yeah.
It is a disaster in Utah right now. I mean, everybody knew it was coming, though. Like, nobody ever thought, like, this team's going to win a title. Like, this team is a legit chance to make the finals. Every, like, TV host and everybody pretends that they're going to be a good team in the playoffs. We all know it's not happening.
And the thing is, I don't know if it seems this way to you. I just don't think a championship contending team can have Jordan Clarkson taking 20 shots a game. I get he scores a lot, volume score, that's fine.
Like, you need a heat check guy, but like
he feels like a magic player, like somebody like coming off the bench for maybe like a play-in team or something like that. Like a championship team can't have Jordan Clarkson taking 20 shots off the bench. It just doesn't feel right to me.
I had this comparison. I was talking with someone earlier.
Got a little too worked up there.
I had this comparison with someone earlier this week. If Jordan Clarkson got put in the right system and the right culture and right everything coming into this league, is he not just Jordan Poole?
That's not a bad take. He has a lot of the same shot tendencies as Jordan Poole, like same
attitude, same build, same tendencies.
If Jordan Clarkson came into the Warriors, then would he
tell me there's any different?
No, that's spot on. I like that actually.
But yeah, the Jazz. It seems like Quinn Snyder's probably going to be gone.
Yeah,
it seems like Rudy and Quinn Snyder are going to be gone because if they're smart, they'll do whatever it takes to keep Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, 100%.
Imagine if they take Rudy Gobert's side in this whole thing.
Do what?
Imagine if they take Rudy Gobert's side in this whole thing.
That'd be the dumbest thing they could do because Rudy Gobert can't even stay on the court in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell is their only offense half the game.
If I'm Utah, I'm calling Charlotte so fast and being like, give us Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, and I'm saying yes.
Yeah, I'm saying yes too. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Give me Terry Rozier and Kelly Oubre. Done.
Kelly Oubre's on good money though.
Yeah, that is true. He's good value. I like him for next year.
And we still have to pay the dead money on Nick Batum. Everything comes back to the Hornets.
Hush, hush, hush. You don't need to talk about that. Let me just have a moment without that.
And then real quick on the Mavs. Game 4, Luka definitely looked a little rusty. I mean, it almost looked worse when Luka was playing. They just didn't have that same rhythm.
Yeah.
Game 5 tonight, I only watched the first half because we're trying to do this podcast right now. I mean, it was toast. Like Luka was cooking that defense. Defense is just not stable enough. And somebody mentioned this. I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, so I apologize, whoever that is. That Rudy Gobert just can all season long. Rudy Gobert just stands in the middle, basically plays help defense, and just lets the perimeter guys have these guys walk by them. And you just can't do that in the playoffs. You can't.
No, you can't. You can't at all. And the thing with the Mavs is it was almost a blessing in disguise. I won't say like it's good Luka was out, but I think it's worked in their favor a little bit just because these rotational guys, Reggie Bullock, Finney Smith, especially Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Kleba hit 8 threes that one game. All have gotten these like huge shots in big moments, these close games. They've come out and won without Luka. So now him coming back, they've got this experience. They've got this confidence playing 40-some minutes a game. Like they can make a run now, realistically.
100%, especially if they go against the Pelicans in the second round.
If somehow it's the Pelicans, yeah, 100%. And
without Zion, like
the
Mavs have a legit shot at the finals at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And my whole thing with the Mavs, my whole problem with the Mavs the last couple of years has been they don't have enough help around Luka. Well, he was out, and Jalen Brunson is about to get paid huge money. Went off. Then when he hit big shots, Kleba hit big shots. Bullock, Finney Smith, defensive stoppers. They're built for a run right now. Like this is prime time.
Yeah. I think it's going to be Mavs in 7. Let's move on. Warriors up 3-1. They'll close out the game in Golden State.
Yep. I agree.
Like, props to Jokic. He's been unbelievable. The fact that they were close in game 3 and literally won game 4, the fact they won one game against how good this Warriors team is impressive as it is. But the Warriors, one thing that is concerning, I saw this stat on Twitter, their home and home road splits are very concerning if you're a Warriors fan.
Yeah, I saw that too. And Jordan Poole has got that elbow problem that he's been dealing with. Like, I know nobody's fully healthy in the playoffs, but
yeah, and Curry's been a little weird this playoffs.
Yeah, he's had a couple of good games, but like him coming off the bench, like the other night he came in early because Clay got 2 fouls. He did not look like ready to play. They're
running the Poole, Curry, Thompson, Green, Wiggins lineup in round 2. It seems like they're saving it, right?
You think they'll just start with that? I think they might put Poole back on the bench.
I don't think they do. I think they just go out. Maybe depending on who they play between the Timberwolves and Grizzlies.
If it's the Grizzlies, they'll stick with the small ball lineup, and the Grizzlies will stick with their small ball lineup because Steven Adams hadn't played the last few games.
But I kind of want the Timberwolves to win because I want to see Draymond Green getting Karl Anthony Towns' head.
That would be awesome. That would be so
he
awesome.
Would. I mean, it would almost be sad how much he would be bullying Cat.
And the storylines like D'Angelo Russell and Wiggins, like both against their former teams, like especially for Wiggins, like that would be crazy.
Imagine if Karl Anthony Towns was on the Nets. Would that be just talk about the mentally weakest team in basketball?
The softest team in basketball. Oh my gosh.
Like
that'd be unbelievable.
That might be the most talented team in basketball ever, but the weakest team mentally, and they would never make it past the second round.
And then throw Boogie Cousins off the bench and you've got the whole unit. Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, last thing on the Warriors is that they're the funnest team in basketball. It's not even close. The way they play basketball is how basketball should be played, and it's just beautiful every night. Like nobody makes me like yell besides Steph Curry and Zion Williamson right now in the NBA.
Yeah, I love watching the Warriors play. I love watching any NBA game. I'll watch 2 dirt teams in the regular season if I'm bored. Especially the playoffs, though. The Warriors are the best team to watch just because the sets they run, the off-ball screens. Like,
oh my god!
As a fan of the game, it's awesome.
Okay, let's move on. Last series we are going to talk about Minnesota and Memphis. Probably the best series in the playoffs right now. Most entertaining, especially with all these weird protesters. 2-2 tied series. Yeah. T-Wolves, after that huge collapse, somehow came back and still won a game. Everybody had to think that series was over after the collapse.
I thought Memphis was going to win the next 2 games and beat that. That was it.
This one has to go 7 for every basketball fan. This one needs to go 7.
I think it will too.
Pat Bev, I don't know. Pat Bev, all this stuff. Karl Anthony Towns. It's going to be Memphis winning in 7, and we're going to see a Karl Anthony Towns collapse. Or
that's probably true.
Or D'Angelo Russell's this is my time, and takes 33 shots.
That wouldn't shock me at all. Memphis is going to win in 6 or 7. 100%.
And ironically, Anthony Edwards is the best player on this Timberwolves team.
See, and that hurts the most because everybody's oh, Anthony Edwards didn't play off balling out. Where's LaMelo? Oh, where's LaMelo ball? No, shut up. LaMelo is still a better player overall.
I love Anthony Edwards, though.
He's so one-dimensional. He's exciting to watch, but he's one-dimensional.
He's good, man.
He is good. And his shooting's been a lot better this playoffs as well.
I mean, there's it's super exciting, but there's really not too much to talk about in this series.
I will say this. And I don't know if I'm in the majority here, or if people are going to give me flack for this, whatever, whoever listens to this. I can't stand those segments on Karl Anthony Towns and John Morant's dads. I can't stand it. I hate to say it. Who cares?
Kind of annoying. It is kind of yeah.
If they wrote one story, featured it for one game, and that was it. Just the one little story, I'd be oh, that's cool. They're making a bet, they know each other. That's awesome. They're gonna wear, whatever. They come back to it every game. They put them on these halftime segments or these out of the timeout segments. I don't care. Classic, they took away game time for it.
Classic AAU dads.
That's literally what it is. They took away game time, from the broadcast to have them just interview on the sidelines like that. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't add anything to the game. One-time story.
Nobody actually cares.
If I read a tweet about it and it took me 2 minutes to read, I'd be that's pretty cool. But I'm annoyed now.
Exactly. I mean, it's a fun series, but it's good. Yeah, it seems like it's gonna go 7.
Yeah, I agree. Desmond Bane's awesome.
I will say this though, the Timberwolves have been awesome, and imagine having that kind of playoff basketball in Charlotte. Timberwolves have been miserable for years. Imagine having that playoff basketball in Charlotte. What you would do for that?
The atmosphere in Charlotte, I am 100% convinced, would be electric if the Hornets were in the playoffs. Even if they were down 3-0, it would still be electric. Imagine
we can't help ourselves. Everything has to come back to the Hornets.
It does. And a winner-take-all playing game in the Hornets hosted. Oh, my God. That'd be unbelievable. The city might explode, especially because the Panthers are so bad now.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. We have a draft show coming on Thursday morning. We're doing 3 shows this week. All right. I texted you a little bit about this. The boring sports theory I have. This year, 2022, is the year of boring sports wins. Let's start off. College football, Georgia wins. Who really cares?
Wasn't that exciting? It wasn't that exciting.
Who really cares besides Georgia fans? Nobody was upset. Nobody really cared. And that's how it is with all these title teams this year. Nobody really cared they won, and nobody was upset they won. Kansas, very few people were actually that upset Kansas won.
The national title game was arguably the Duke Carolina game in the Final Four, and then everybody's Kansas.
Even though it was a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal game. Being there, I don't even want to relive it. Obviously, I was upset, but
yeah, that was awesome.
No, it fits the theory.
Rock chalk. Might become a Kansas fan. No, that's the thing. Nobody cared about Kansas winning. It doesn't really matter. And then Super Bowl. Nobody cared about the Rams winning, and nobody was upset the Rams won besides Bengals fans.
Yeah, no, that was fine to me. I was that's pretty cool. Odell got a ring, or Aaron Donald deserved this, or Matt Stafford finally got out of Detroit. Yeah, that was cool. Cooper Kupp's fine.
Yeah, and the same thing is Georgia football. You're oh, that's cool. Good for Kirby Smart, man. They've been good. Awesome. We don't really care.
He finally got one, yeah.
And Kansas, you're just all right, Bill Self. I mean, cool.
Hasn't won in a while. Yeah, that's fine. They've been top of the yeah, exactly. So who's that team in the NBA then?
Yeah, exactly. And we were texting about it. it's got to be either the Heat or the Bucks.
Yeah, I said the Bucks just because they won last year. The whole Giannis narrative, like obviously everybody knows how great he is.
The only reason I say no to the Bucks is back-to-back titles does mean something.
That does mean something, and that's the only reason I would say it wouldn't be the Bucks is because it would be back-to-back.
Because like
if you were including last year, I would say the Bucks. Like if that was the NBA team, I would say yes. But this year, maybe he was
like the Heat. The Heat, like who really cares if the Heat win? And who really cares if the Heat, like who's really mad?
I'd be kind of mad.
Would you? I really don't think I'd do that.
I can't stand Kyle Lowry, and I don't want him to win again.
Because like Phoenix would be massive because the CP3 storylines, Phoenix getting their first title after getting so close so many years. Golden State, Steph gets another ring. They win one without Durant, and that's awesome. Let's see.
Any of these other teams would be like the first time ever, like Memphis or like any of these other teams.
Yeah, Memphis would be super exciting. The Sixers would like break through, even though they're definitely not going to win it. But like the
Celtics won.
Through. The Celtics won. They're like, oh my gosh, the Celtics storylines are back. Everybody hates Boston sports, and everybody would have a reason to care.
Yeah,
nobody would hate or really care that the Miami Heat won, and that's why I'm considering putting a little future on the Miami Heat to win the finals.
That's not a bad play because the Heat they're good enough to where nobody would be that surprised, but they're not good enough to where it's like, oh my God, we're witnessing generational greatness.
And what you have to look at with all these coaches that have won this year, like the boring teams, they're really good coaches. They're great coaches.
They are.
And they're just like, and they almost don't get necessarily the credit they truly deserve.
Spoelstra fits that narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bill Self, say what you want. I'm not a big Bill Self guy. He has 2 titles and he's always been relevant. He has a zillion Big 12 regular season titles, a zillion Big 12 tournament titles. Really good coach. Sean McVay, excellent coach, top level coach. And then Kirby Smart, always been right there. He was 1-2 a touchdown away from winning the freaking national title. He's always been at the top, number 1 recruiter. And he finally gets one.
Yeah, that's a pretty hot theory. This clip will be viewed a lot, I feel like.
Yeah, no, that's
timestamp this. I mean, that's a hot take. It's got to be the Heat of the Bucks, and I'm leaning towards the Heat. Like that would complete the little like circle.
All right. Well, I think that's really it right now for the NBA, right?
I think NBA wise, that's about it.
All right, let's move into college basketball because this is easily by far the most exciting college basketball offseason there's ever been.
Oh yeah.
Easily there's ever been because it's free agency right now times like 1,000 where you like don't even know. It's guys like if this were in NBA terms, this is guys like Max Strus transferring. He's like, I'm gonna go be the number 1 guy on Wake Forest.
Yeah, it's just like these guys who like a couple years ago would 100% like chase that money in the NBA because they couldn't get it in college. Now, like all these big name players are coming back just because of that NIL potential.
The sliminess has to be at an all-time high.
Oh, like everybody's promising these.
There is a legit payroll out there. They're like, all right, well, you hit this incentive bonus and all this, like,
oh yeah,
by the local Toyota owner, the Toyota dealer.
Eventually, those are like the NIL is going to be more valuable than like a scholarship. Like,
oh yeah, it's already that way.
It probably already is. Just there's no like cap on what you can do with that. Like literally, Puff Johnson, rotational guy for Carolina, really played like 8 minutes a game this year. Was relevant for like the last third of the year. Signed a deal with like the Go Puff company just because his name, just because like a couple students like held up the Go Puff like logo at a game, and he like said something about it, and then they have a partnership now.
Jeremy Roach is going to get every Duke sponsorship next year.
Yep, Doug Eder from St. Peter's.
Yeah,
the
Buffalo Wild Wings
thing. Yeah, how much do you think he got paid for that?
Shout out Bryant. Huh? Bryant basketball. What? Doug Eder went to Bryant.
Bryant,
workout here.
Yeah, shout out Chris Duhon. They'll be relevant next year. Everybody loves Dougie Buffalo.
They have to easily be the favorite to win that conference.
I think so.
But yeah, like let's talk about it now. Carolina returns everybody but Manic, Garcia, who wasn't really there, and Anthony Harris, who wasn't really there. Mainly you lose Manic. Everybody returns. You get a couple freshmen coming in. Carolina's all going to be the talk of every college basketball podcast, every college basketball show, everything next year. They're going to be the number 1 preseason favorite. Armando Bacot is going to be National Player of the Year favorite, ACC Player of the Year favorite. You name it, he's going to be the preseason favorite for all of that. Does that scare you a little bit being the number 1 overall seed and the favorite every year? Because as a Duke fan, you get it every single year, and it usually doesn't actually happen.
Yeah, it does scare me. See, it would scare me more if Carolina had like a crazy, like Duke-esque or Kentucky-esque, like huge freshman class coming in, and then we were also number one because of a freshman class. I feel a little more at ease just because the returning guys, the experience. I will say it does scare me a lot. And there was a poll on Twitter from like one of these Carolina Twitter accounts that was like Armando Bacot's senior year is the most anticipated year since like Hansbrough or Bryce Johnson or Marcus Page. I dare say, other than Tyler Hansbrough, probably the most anticipated season. Maybe that 2017 year, just because the whole redemption narrative. But Page and Johnson were both gone.
Like
Page and Johnson were both gone then, though.
Yeah, no, I think this is, even though like I don't know about you, I just don't see Bacot on that same level as like Hansbrough guy.
See, Hansbrough, I honest to God would argue is like top 3, maybe top 1 college basketball player ever. Like the argument can be made. He's definitely top 5. Stop. And you know it's true. Never lost in Cameron. Stop.
Leitner won 4 Final Fours. Went to 4 Final Fours, 2 national titles, back to back.
Hansbrough's undeniably top 5 in the last 50 years.
Obviously, top 5.
Okay. Ever. So, yeah, okay, thank you. Without a doubt. And so Armando Bacot will not live up to that. He will not be considered a top. Like, no, this is not happening. He can win National Player of the Year this year and they go undefeated. Doesn't matter. He's not on that level.
Okay, I'll be honest. Like, I feel like it kind of makes me sound like a douchebag, but like, I feel like I am a very unbiased Duke fan. I try and see as best as I can.
Yeah, you did.
But on that note, Carolina. If I'm a Carolina fan, I would be worried about this, is that they played a lot of hero ball and made ridiculous shots in that tournament. And I mentioned it earlier, talking about the Boston Celtics, relating that together. Carolina took the exact same shots they took all year. They were just making them in the tournament. And I think they're going to go with that same strategy going into next season. I don't know if they make those same shots.
I agree with that to a certain extent. I think
also, you lose the 3-point threat of Manek. When Manek was out of games last year, you saw a big decline. Yeah. He was the most important player for that Carolina team.
That is 100% facts. And the thing is, though, I agree with that. But I also feel like the team, I feel like as the year went on, they got to trust each other more. There was still that hero ball element, but it was more like, okay, like I'll give it to you to play hero ball, or like you take the shot, or I'll, like it wasn't as much like just one-on-one selfishness as early in the year.
No, and I'm not saying it's one-on-one selfishness necessarily hero ball, but I'm saying guys just got more confident. Yeah. I think that's what happened. But like those, like it's kind of playing like you live and die by these hard shots they take.
And that's what I'm worried about is like, how will the team next year respond to a little adversity? Like they've lose 2 straight, or maybe they drop like a non-conference game in December or something. And then everybody,
they responded pretty well this year. So.
They did, but they also weren't top 5. Number one. They're preseason number 1 right now.
Yeah. And the expectation's going to be there.
That's what I'm saying. Like they were the underdog. They performed the best without expectations, unranked, going in as an 8 seed. When they're preseason number 1 and there's a little adversity, and all these sports writers are dogging them like, oh, they returned all these guys, but, they're failing to meet expectations, this and this and this. They're all going to hear that. How are they going to respond to that? Because that's what I'm worried about. I don't know. I think –
Are we going to get Wes Miller tweets coming by December?
They better not. Hubert literally made the national title. There's so many Fairweather fans that were calling for his head early in the year, and I was skeptical, but I was never like, oh, we should have hired Wes Miller. No, like, give him a chance.
I
don't know.
Well, the other thing, like I was talking about with the tough shots, is Caleb Love and RJ Davis never once had an easy shot in the tournament. I don't think they ever had one wide open shot in the NCAA tournament and on their like run at the end of the season, maybe against the Duke game, because that Duke defense was so terrible in that game. But
yeah,
Brady Manek was the only one that had those easy shots. Puff Johnson's going to be having to take those shots. Puff Johnson is going to be the key for Carolina secretly, because Bacot's going to be averaging 23 and 12. That's going to happen. Yep. Caleb Love and RJ Davis are going to get hot and cold. They're going to be hot and cold all year. One's going to be hot, one's going to be cold. Some get cold both games, some get hot both games. You just don't know. You have to have Puff Johnson be consistent. He's not at the same level, but he's kind of got to play that Cam Johnson role where he hits those big shots. When you have that momentum going in a game, you're coming out sluggish. It's a Tuesday night against Louisville, and you finally get that momentum. You're down 3, and you run and get that shot wide open. Puff Johnson, he's got to hit that.
I agree. And I think it'll be kind of like a Cam Johnson role, just like a more diminished one. He won't play as many minutes, I don't think. I think it'll be a steady dose of him and Dontrez Styles. I think if Styles develops a three-point shot, like even a respectable one, I'm not saying 45%, but just a respectable one. I think he's an answer at the 4 because he can jump out of the gym.
Last thing we'll touch on Carolina. Who's the backup center?
I don't know. I think it'll be one of the freshmen. I think it has to be just because
that has to be scary.
I think it'll probably be Jalen Washington. I mean,
Baycott's going to get in foul trouble.
Yeah, and the thing is, Will Shaver played all year. Or not played all year, but he practiced all year with the team. He joined the team in like January or something. I still think it'll be Jalen Washington playing that backup 5. I think we'll see a lot more small ball. Like Carolina played Brady Manick a lot at the 5 last year. Don't really have that 6'9", 6'10" guy at the 4 that you can shift to the 5 this year. So I'm a little concerned about that. Just because a lot of our scholarships are like wing players and guards, you know?
Yeah, I mean, small ball worked for him in the tournament, but you live and die by it because eventually you're going to die by it if you have to use it too much. I mean,
we're Hornets fans
for crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly. It'll have to be one of the freshmen, which does scare me because they're not like those huge 5-star recruits. But we'll see as the year goes on. There'll be a lot of tinkering at first, but we'll
Duke news. Duke loses everybody besides Jeremy Roach and Joey Baker. They've got the number 1 recruiting class coming in. Same story, different verse, blah, blah, blah.
What? Joey Baker coming back? Is it just because Coach K left?
No, did you not see?
No, I saw he's coming back, but like,
oh no. He was hurt all year. He had to have hip surgery. That's what happened.
Oh,
it was a behind the scenes thing. I guess he needed hip surgery all year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he because all of a sudden everybody saw him on crutches at the like end of year banquet, and they're like, yeah, he had hip surgery right after the day the season ended. Out of nowhere.
Nobody can take attention away from Coach K's farewell tour. Nobody can take the attention away from Coach K. Can't be about anybody else. No injuries, no health issues, nothing. It's just Coach K.
Give it up. Anyhow, Jeremy Roach coming back. Duke finally has a veteran point guard.
Like, hadn't had that in a while.
You can say we have not had a Final Four returning point guard since 2001.
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting.
I mean, we finally have one, and that's the thing. Like, we had Wendell Moore returning junior, blah blah blah. He played amazing. Wendell Moore was fantastic last year.
Is he gone?
He is gone. Yeah, he signed agent, everything. He's gone.
Okay.
Jeremy Roach, the point guard position is everything in college basketball. It just is.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, your big man can average 20-10. He can be huge for you. End of the day, you don't have a point guard, you're not going to win. And that's why I think Duke is like. Typically, I would be down on this Duke team because you get tired of the freshmen coming in. They always hit a freshman wall come January, and they're all struggling through conference play, and they finally like slowly make that increase back, but you know they're not going to make it in the tournament. But now that they have a point guard who's been there, played those big minutes, that's why I'm very high on this Duke team this year. And Trevor Keels still can return. Brendan Mark, shout out, he'll be on the podcast soon. Trevor Keels, he thinks Trevor Keels is coming back, but that's a weird story. Duke's kind of a weird situation going into Duke next year.
It is. I saw
they got to be in for some transfers.
I saw Andy Katz had them at 8th. He put Carolina at 1, which is scary, but he had Duke at 8. I think that's about the right spot for them because these freshman classes, sometimes don't pan out for Duke. But with that veteran point guard, I really think that'll elevate the play of that strong freshman class. I really do.
Yeah, and preseason polls I really don't care about unless you're
hang the banner.
If you're one,
hang the banner.
If you're one, that's scary. But yeah, man,
so scary.
And last thing we'll touch on college basketball. We'll be done. Jay Wright retired like out of thin air.
I didn't expect that at all. What a classy move by him to retire after the year. What a classy move to announce it after the.
He said he's going to go coach the Charlotte Hornets.
No, I don't want that. Even if he won, I don't think so. Not the right time to try a college guy. I mean, Matt Rule to the Panthers. We saw.
This city can't do another college guy. All right. Anything else?
I think that's about it. This was a pretty good catch-up episode. I think next time we do this, round 1 will probably be close to wrapping up. We'll have a good, decent shot to know who's in the second round and everything.
Yeah, we should know for sure. And it'll be a lot quicker next time. We had to do a long episode. I mean,
yeah.
All
right, the interviews coming up.
We got interviews coming up. We have Evan Kent from the Crown Club. You can follow if you follow the Charlotte Hornets. You've seen their account. They actually
you can't miss that one.
But we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be true to ourselves because I have screenshots pulled up from myself sending tweets in our group chat saying these guys are the dumbest people I've ever met on the face of the earth. And we got to be upfront about it. But
I will.
At the end of the day, they do awesome stuff with the Charlotte tailgates and everything. Go check them out, Crown Club. We'll have that interview coming for you. That should be on Friday.
Don't miss it.
We have Gene Banks coming on, former Duke star, NBA player. He's coming on soon. We have some other ones in the works. Also, Grant and I maybe are you coming on Wednesday night?
I can, yeah. It's just for the draft.
Yeah, we're gonna do a quick NFL draft show real quick. That's a bonus episode coming Thursday. Then we're gonna do basketball on Friday. So
I'll definitely be back for the basketball.
Thursday, it's gonna be a quick NFL draft show, and then we may throw the Crown Club interview on that one. Stay tuned on CarterCast on Twitter or CarterBA or at Connor_Sparrow. Follow us on Twitter. And then check out CarterCast.com. Articles are being posted daily. Check us out tomorrow. We'll have an article coming out tomorrow. I think that's about it. But yeah, we do have some big interviews coming up soon. We have a lot more in the works.
It's getting back to that summer vibe, with everything's getting out of season. More people won't line up for interviews.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. All right. That'll do it from us. We will see y'all actually on Thursday for the NFL draft show with Grant and I, and we will probably have a Charlotte Hornets interview on top of that one. And we'll see y'all then. Bye.